This essay example, as well as thousands of others, is available in text format on our website for free and without registration. Simply Google Ivy Panda Free Essays.
When will we switch to renewable sources of energy, such as solar, wind, hydro, and geothermal power? In this alternative sources of energy essay, the author argues that the sun and wind have the potential to reduce our dependence on fossil fuels and lower carbon emissions. Read the paper to learn about the challenges, limitations, and benefits of implementing alternative energy sources. A particular part is dedicated to the importance of government policies in promoting the development and use of alternative energy sources. Overall, the essay on alternative energy sources presents a comprehensive overview of the current state of renewable energy and its potential for shaping our future. Introduction. The world has been overly reliant on oil as a source of energy to fuel most of its operations. It is important to note that as much as 80% of the world's energy comes from fossil fuels. Unfortunately, the fossil deposits we have in the world cannot last forever. They will be depleted one day and cause a lot of problems in the world. Therefore, efforts should be made to ensure that other energy sources are found so that when fossil fuel gets depleted, the world does not halt. In this regard, many people, especially in the United States, have been concerned with the government's steps toward encouraging the development of other energy sources. Consequently, the government has been urged to reduce restrictions impeding the development of renewable energy sources and increase funding for the same. However, to address this issue, it is better to understand some of the sources of renewable energy. Solar power. Among the proposed sources of power to be used is solar energy. Solar energy is a renewable source of energy because the sun has been there and can only be absent for a very short period. On the same note, harnessing solar energy is noise-proof, meaning that noise pollution is avoided when using solar power. Similarly, solar power is environmentally friendly because it does not produce any pollution. In addition, equipment used in the production of solar power is cheap to maintain, thus, the long-run cost of production is low. Moreover, it is easy and cheap to install appliances with solar power. Similarly, the electricity produced from solar energy can be used to power virtually everything that uses power. It is also important to note that the production of solar power does not lead to environmental degradation like digging up the ground or deforestation. However, solar power has its disadvantages. To begin with, some people have argued that the initial cost of installing solar power harnessing equipment is very high. Additionally, harnessing solar power is affected by weather and cannot be done during cloudy or rainy days and at night. Therefore, another energy source is needed to act as a backup. Wind power. On the other hand, wind energy is also another source of energy that can replace fossil fuels. Wind energy does not emit greenhouse gases, which are dangerous to the environment. Furthermore, no fossil fuels are burnt to produce wind energy, thus, it does not pollute the environment. Besides, the extraction of wind energy is more efficient, given the technological advancement. The turbines that produce wind power only occupy little space at the base, leaving room for other activities to be done on the ground. Moreover, wind energy is highly applicable in underdeveloped parts of a country and can add to the tax base of the area. In addition, renewable energy sources, wind being among them, require minimal subsidies to maintain. On the same note, the cost of producing wind power is constant, and therefore, prices for wind power do not fluctuate. Most importantly, the wind is free, and thus the cost of producing wind power is low in the long run. It is crucial, however, to highlight that wind power has its share of disadvantages. Firstly, wind power depends on the flow of wind. On days when the weather is calm, wind power might not be generated. On the same note, the initial cost of producing wind power is quite high, and individuals may be unable to afford it. Lastly, the power produced by the turbines is insufficient compared to the power produced by fossil fuels. Course of action. Despite the disadvantages of wind and solar power, their advantages are definitely more. They are renewable, and therefore they will never get depleted. Sooner or later, the government will have to find alternative ways of producing power. Consequently, it is high time that the government increased its financial support in producing the two types of power. Reduction of restrictions is necessary, but it might not be sufficient given the high initial cost. Similarly, renewable sources of energy, especially wind and solar power, are both economically and environmentally viable in the long run, hence the need to invest in them. Conclusion. The fact that the country currently satisfies most of its energy requirements should not blind our eyes. We will need to think of how we will operate in the future. The fossil fuel that forms the giant part of energy source will definitely be exhausted with time. It will be a great disservice to future generations if we do not find sustainable energy sources. Consequently, the government has no option but to encourage the production of wind and solar energy. This essay on alternative sources of energy was written and submitted by a student just like you. The Ivy Panda Samples database hosts thousands of works similar to this one, on various subjects. Visit ivypanda.com to find what you are looking for, free of charge.